If we can remain standing in honor of our veterans that have served this country and those that continue to serve the country both home and abroad. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson.
Here.
Bucci.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Condon.
Here.
DePietro.
Here.
Fallon.
Here.
Kinnon.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Nestor.
Here.
Spatafora. Lucy.
Here. If I could remind everyone to turn off or put their phones on vibrate, and anyone with any kind of headgear, please take it off your head for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. Clerk, first order of business.
Ordered that for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the City of Malden for the budget period fiscal year 2012, July 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2012, together with the interest and municipal indebtedness, the sum of money named in the accompanying Schedule B is hereby appropriated for the accounts and the amounts and purposes and objects therein stated and explained, and it is hereby provided and ordered that the appropriations enumerated in said Schedule B, being in the amount of $131,119,152, and also the sums that will be required as the city's proportion of the state and county taxes to be raised in the property and estates of the city according to the provisions of law, and it is further ordered that the interest rate established by law shall be charged from August 3rd, 2011 and/or November 3rd, 2011 and/or February 3rd, 2012 and/or May 3rd, 2012 upon all taxes to be assessed the present fiscal year and remaining unpaid on August 4th, 2011 and/or November 4th, 2011 and/or February 4th, 2012 and/or May 4th, 2012. Ordered that for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the City of Malden Enterprise Fund for the budget period fiscal year 2012, July 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2012, the sum of money named in the accompanying Schedule C, being the same as hereby appropriated to the accounts and for the purposes and objects therein stated and explained, and it is provided in order that the appropriations enumerated in said Schedule C, being in the amount of $22,568,759, and also the sums that will be required as the city's proportion of state and county taxes to be raised in the water and sewer accounts in the city according to the provisions of law, and it is further ordered that the interest rate established by law shall be charged on a monthly basis on all water and sewer bills remaining unpaid 30 days after the due date. Ordered that for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the City of Malden Enterprise Fund for the budget period fiscal year 2012, July 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2012, the sum of money named in the accompanying Schedule D being the same as hereby appropriated to the accounts and for the purposes and objects therein stated and explained, and it is hereby provided and ordered that the appropriations enumerated in said Schedule D, being in the amount of $1,350,000, is to be raised in the pay-as-you-throw program in the city according to the provisions of law.
Thank you. We have the mayor tonight to give us a presentation of the budget. All rise for the mayor.
And members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to come down and provide some detail to the sheets that you have in front of you, and I'd be glad to answer any questions as well. As I get to the end of this presentation, as usual, I'll try to go through my message. You can follow along, but for the advantage of the watching and listening public, I'll read the most of it, and as I said, answer any questions at the end. I'm submitting for your consideration the budget for fiscal year 2012. It's the latest in a series of budget efforts that seeks to sustain critical services in the face of severe economic conditions in the Commonwealth and throughout the country. Well, with this proposal, I believe the city has turned a corner toward fiscal sustainability. In other words, I believe this proposal brings us one step closer to our desired goal of having all needed municipal services and related financial activities supported by equitable and reliable funding sources. As I've stressed over the last several fiscal years, almost all budgetary activity has been based on a commitment to several precise financial objectives. First, we reduced as much as possible the reliance on one-time funding sources in order to pay for ongoing municipal services. This year, we made substantial progress toward that goal by cutting by more than half, from approximately $9 million to about $3.5 million, our use of one-time sources to make the budget balance. Second, for the most part, this budget avoids substantial reduction in workforce, which is a goal that we've sought over the last several fiscal years during these hard times. Third, and perhaps most importantly, we have successfully negotiated a permanent, fair, and far-reaching change to our health care benefit package with the vast majority of the current workforce. These changes, which I'll highlight in more detail below, will result in the equitable sharing of costs of the health care benefit between the city and the employees. The changes will also begin to stem and hopefully reverse the rise in health care costs for all involved. Similar to fiscal year 2011, we have proposed cuts to departmental personnel service line items to account for the failure to successfully negotiate these changes in certain departments. But these cuts are extremely limited and do not impact public safety operations. So with these critical objectives in mind, we should review the main features of this year's budget. Under revenue, as we've noted over the past 1.5 decades, really, the city's revenue expectations depend greatly on our two major categories of receipts, and that is state aid that comes to cities and towns through the Commonwealth, and local real estate and personal property taxation. Over the past 8 years, local aid from the Commonwealth has been in constant decline. There are signs in the various budget packages issued by the governor, by the House, and by the Senate that this negative trend may be in abeyance. In fiscal year 2012, the state has committed to fund educational accounts to a level that plugs the gap for the loss of recent federal stimulus funds. Also, recent trends in state tax receipts show signs that collections are outpacing projections, and this would be a reflection of a modest uptick in the state's economy, which would be a positive sign all around. However, we continue to see a decline in the unrestricted local aid category, with Malden scheduled to receive a decrease of $767,000 in all versions of the Commonwealth's budget proposals for fiscal year 2012. And because of our heavy reliance on state funding, we must carefully monitor economic and fiscal trends at the state level in order to be sure that this revenue stream is secure and somewhat predictable as a source for our local budget going forward. The other main category of revenue is funds raised from local taxation. I'm projecting that allowable increase in real estate taxation in fiscal year 2012 will provide approximately a $3.120 million increase in local tax revenue, which includes a modest estimate for new growth of about several $100,000. All of the growth falls within the constraints of Proposition 2.5. The proposed levy of $66,887,635 is well short of a potential levy ceiling of $119,873,501. So Malden continues to be a great investment for homeowners and other property owners, and that almost 50% of our entire citywide valuation remains untaxed, one of the highest ratios in the state. Our average tax bill remains one of the lowest in the state, and homeowner occupants receive an even further advantage by virtue of the 20% residential tax exemption that the council has passed over the years. While our ability to raise revenue from local taxation is limited, there is consistency in what we project to receive from this important revenue category going forward. All other local revenue sources have been adjusted to reflect either modest growth or declines, depending upon the source. For instance, you will see that we expect to receive slightly more money in the motor vehicle excise taxation category and substantially less money in the interest income category. And I believe the council has made a prudent decision in implementing the optional 0.75% meals tax. And these projected funds will help support the cost of new capital initiatives that are badly needed by providing more annual revenue capacity. As I indicated, we have relied upon one-time sources in order to balance the budget. Again, we have worked hard to cut that reliance, as I mentioned, from fiscal year 2011 to 12. Last year, we used about $3,250,000 in available overlay surplus, $2.2 million in public schools holdover funds, and approximately $3,150,000 in group health insurance offsets to meet anticipated expenses. This year, to offset general expenditures, we will rely upon approximately $1.5 million in group health insurance offsets, together with approximately $1,850,000 in one-time sources, for a decrease of that more than 50%, of over $5 million. We should keep in mind that the school system will use approximately $2 million in federal jobs bill money that was appropriated last year but unused, but will be used this year in order to make their budget balance, together with funds that are contained in this budget document before you. On the expenditure side, from last year to this year, we've remained relatively constant with several notable exceptions. As I mentioned, the public schools increase from year to year reflects the commitment to provide the department's annual funding to a level amount, and that accounts for the loss of the one-time sources, nearly $4.8 million in the holdover, in the combination of holdover and federal stimulus funds. And also to follow through on a commitment to keep the teaching workforce at its current level. Public schools budget will continue to rely upon that jobs money, as I mentioned, and we will have to account for that in developing fiscal year 2013. The budget department increase reflect the repromotion of superior officers and the city's obligation to fund the state's share of the Quinn bill that the state has virtually eliminated over the past several fiscal years. We have also proposed to rehire 5 cadets to help monitor the citywide surveillance program that began this year. Most all other departmental activity is level funded from last year to this year, with allowances for modest raises negotiated with almost all workforce groups for fiscal year 2012. In certain instances, departmental bottom lines may appear higher than usual in the past due to the fact that the enterprise fund expensing this year is accounted for in a different way. You will see it as a sum entered on the revenue page rather than as a subtraction from all of the various departments that is applied against. But the amount remains the same virtually from year to year. The most important expenditure over the last several years has been the group health insurance account within the unclassified field in the budget. And beginning in fiscal year 2008, the benefit topped $20 million and it has climbed at a rate of 8.5% to 10% each year until this year. Since fiscal year 2005, we've made constant and concerted efforts to convince the workforce that capping and reversal of this trend is crucial to the fiscal stability of the city, and it's an important household budget concern for each employee who participates in the plan as well. As a result of successful negotiations with many bargaining units, we have now permanently changed the plan design to include more equitable payments for doctor's visits, emergency room visits, and prescription medications. Employees will also contribute a deductible payment toward major medical costs associated with the plan. All of these changes will help offset the cost to the city and to our taxpayers, The redistribution of these costs will bring our plan more in line with the cost-sharing experienced in other public health care plans on both the local and the state level. I believe the key feature of the new plan design is the introduction of financial incentives that employees can earn by carefully monitoring their own health habits. This will come in the form of annually checking our employees' efforts to maintain age and gender appropriate standards as established by the American Medical Association in the categories of weight, cholesterol, blood pressure, non-smoking, and exercise. Our plan provider, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, will offer each employee health coaching in order to make better choices about nutrition, uses of medication, and the benefits of regular exercise. The overall goal is to have our employees become healthier and thereby reducing their own cost of health care, but also to make them better consumers of the healthcare system so that excessive and avoidable expenditures for health care are reduced or eliminated. If this feature of the plan is implemented earnestly over the coming years, I believe it will lower the cost of the plan by millions of dollars in avoidable health care costs. Just taking the steps we took last year resulted in the lowest annual increase to the plan over the last 10 years. This is a very positive trend and good news for our greatest single line item expenditure. There are several other fiscal highlights that we should touch upon. We will again begin the year with a modest amount in revenue reserve. This reserve should be used to offset expenses that may arise during the year for unanticipated departmental activity, and we should use this reserve sparingly in order to stretch it as far as possible into the fiscal year. If we successfully conclude contractual negotiations with those bargaining units who have yet to agree to terms, then we'll use a portion of these funds to restore proposed cuts in the relevant departments. With the close of fiscal year 2011, we should reverse our trend from negative to positive in our free cash funds. This is due mainly to tight management by all department heads of annual fund balances, together with an aggressive push on tax delinquencies. And I know this issue of past due tax receipts has received some attention in the recent council debates with regard to our fiscal flexibility. The delinquencies being recovered off of past due tax and water charges stretching back 10 years in some cases. During that time, the Treasurer's Office has billed and collected nearly $530 million in real estate tax activity. Similarly, in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, the system has billed and collected over $100 million for water and sewer charges. The amount unpaid in receipts that has accumulated over the same period is somewhere between $2.5 million and $3 million. This amounts to approximately less than 1% of all activity over this approximate 10-year period. So the Department of Revenue will take whatever has been recovered over these past couple of months due to the aggressive tax collecting efforts, and will take these now collected amounts into account in establishing the free cash figure for fiscal year 2012. Not available yet. There are several initiatives contained within the budget as well. With the resources we do have, we continue to provide important investment in a number of key areas. Malden High School, within this fiscal year, will bring it to a close on time and on budget. The $77 million upgrade to the facility will provide Malden High students with the best school resources for science, math, engineering, fine arts, gymnasium, and community space activities. With the Council's most recent vote for capital spending, we'll begin 2 major upgrades to recreational spaces at Pine Banks Park and South Broadway Park, as well as upgrades to smaller parks and playgrounds throughout the city. We will begin the Pleasant Street reconstruction project, which will improve the appearance of Malden Square and improve pedestrian and traffic flow in the Main Street, Pleasant Street corridor. And we are implementing our largest infrastructure projects to date with multiple water pipe, street, and sidewalk improvement projects throughout the city. We'll complete the upgrade of our financial software system and begin the implementation of an interdepartmental GIS technology package. And we have signed an intercity police department agreement allowing for regional cooperation between departments, among and between departments, and we will implement a citywide surveillance system that will be monitored by the police department personnel at the station, as I mentioned earlier. And finally, not last, there are many others, but the main highlight is in the public schools, the school committee will move forward to fill the position of retiring Superintendent Sidney Smith, who has provided great leadership to the school department for 4 years, and we certainly thank him for his service, and we look forward to bringing that new person on board to lead the system in the future. So these are just some of the many initiatives implemented by the administration and department heads during extremely challenging fiscal times. So in conclusion, for all the above reasons, I believe fiscal year 2012 will prove to be a critical year in the city's effort to weather this economic crisis by collaborating with employees and managing conservatively and taking advantage of creative partnerships and outside funding sources. We will have come through the worst fiscal times in the city's history without massive layoffs that would have otherwise crippled critical services. And at the same time, we've been able to initiate projects that will add substantial value to the quality of life for Malden residents. As I outlined previously, all the fiscal work is not yet done. Future budgets will require important attention to detail. The community will likely have to face the important decision of whether or not we want to further invest in our own future, especially if the Commonwealth continues